Are you a student in this class?
Women, ain't they perfect?
Not always.
No, I'm a bum. Yes, they are. They're perfect. Don't matter if they're skinny, fat, blonde, or blue.
There are no bums. There are only the financially challenged.
No, I'm a bum. But bear in mind, I'm a Harvard. If a woman is willing to give you her love, Harvard, it's the greatest gift in the world.
You're here for the garbage.
That's right. Colleges produce a lot of garbage. And Harvard produces more than most. Makes you taller, makes you smarter, makes your teeth shine. Boy, oh boy, women are perfect.
What do you see when you look at me? What do you see?
A man.
No, you see a piece of shit, Harvard.
Yeah, you were wrong. I don't care about you being sorry. I see a man who needs a home.
I had a home. I had a warm place to sleep. 17 bathrooms and 8 miles of books. I had a goddamn palace.
You shit! Huh? He's a human being! Don't give me that. You just want your thesis. What, you care about him? Take him to a shelter.
You know why I need a home? Because of you. Because when you looked at me, you didn't see a man.
You have confidence in me?
Yes.
No criticism?
Well, maybe one. You're perfect.
Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Matt and I'm here with Andrew. Today we're going to be talking about With Honor, starring Joe Pesci, the influence of Walt Whitman on 90s movies, and what happens when the soundtrack hits slightly harder than the movie. So grab your popcorn and Reese's Pieces and let's break it down on the Post Credit Podcast.
Most people
Same
that
thing
live
with
around
Ohio
there,
State, Columbus, and all that, yeah. Well, what's that?
Oh, no, I was just saying it just kind of brought me back to that weather especially, you know. I mean, I know how cold it gets out there, and that's bad, you know.
Yeah. Well, just some quick scheduling stuff to get out of the way. Drew and I are actually going to be guests on 2 different podcast shows coming up. We have an appearance on the Horror and Heels podcast with Jen and Alicia. They were on our 13 Ghost episode a couple episodes ago, and next weekend we'll be recording an episode with them. We're going to be talking about the Black Christmas remakes as well as the originals, you know, difference between those two. So we're recording that next weekend, so that'll probably be out next week, sometimes the week of the 29th, on their show Horror and Heels. And then we're also going to be on a show called Groundless. It's a Justified podcast. The hosts of that, Chris and Randy, they were on our show last season. We did an entire season or entire series review on the show of Justified. And it's such a good show. They do episode by episode analysis on that show. So Drew and I are also going to be on that show in a few weeks from now, when they do their season 2 episode 12 show. So look out for that. I think it'll be a good show. And you know, even though we're not drinkers, maybe we'll make an exception and break out.
Oh, yeah.
Break something out for
you have to make.
Yeah, maybe I'll make the exception and break something, because I know both those the Horror and Heels. I know they like to have a drink, and I think guys over Groundless do every once in a while. But stay tuned for those 2 shows. Again, that's Horror and Heels. Horror HORROR space the letter N space Heels HEELS. That's their show. You can find them anywhere you get podcasts, and Groundless is the Justified podcast, and you can get those anywhere where you can get podcasts as well. So look out for those. We're pretty excited for them, and again, we'll plug them here again on this show too. But today we're going to be talking about another movie called With Honors. When's the last time you saw this?
Well, before we
prepped for the show,
man, I was up in Boston when I went and saw it, and that was in like 2005 to 2008 area. And that was the last time I remember watching it because I bought it. You know, I bought the movie. I mean, it's a classic. You know, I had to rebuy a lot of these movies on DVD and stuff like that because I did watch VHS at a certain point in my life. So, no, I mean, I even worked at Blockbuster when they had VHSs.
I remember you working at Blockbusters, and they would throw.
It wasn't DVDs. Well, it was starting to get DVDs.
But they started throwing a bunch of VHSs away, and I remember one time you being like, "So I'm going to be going to the dumpster," and that was probably against the rules and everything. But who cares about VHS nowadays?
Right.
I'm sure the what do they call it? The time lapse between when you did something. What is it called? When you can actually be prosecuted for it. Statute of limitations.
Yeah,
that's
there
it.
you go.
Yeah, so I'm sure that's passed. Don't worry about it. I'll look it up, and if not,
it never
we'll cut
happened
this
anyway.
podcast.
So you know.
Oh yeah, well you just talked about doing it, but.
Well, no, it was just like so many movies were getting thrown away. You know, it wasn't like, oh, you want to buy this? Okay, you want to watch this? You know, handing them out. I mean, and you know, you can't do that anyways. But like literally, it was just they were just throwing away thousands and thousands of VHSs when they started going to DVDs. You know,
yeah,
pretty crazy. But yeah, that was probably the last time I watched it. So we're talking about, you know, within like maybe 10 to 12 years of it actually coming out. You know.
I've not seen this movie since I was a child.
Really?
And by that I mean since I was at least under 18. Mm-hmm. When I was younger, I really liked this movie, which is weird when I started thinking about it because, you know, we couldn't have been that old. I don't want to say how old I was when it came out, but you know, we couldn't have been that old.
Yeah.
It's not something that people or kids our age when we were that age. It's not really something you watch, you know. You're watching Goonies or Ninja Turtles or whatever, but for some reason I liked movies like this.
No, me too.
And dramatic movies, and the funny thing about those is when I was younger, I didn't pay attention to a lot of it, or it was just like a fun movie or whatever. And then you get older and you actually like pay attention to more things.
Well, that's just like
picking up on more things.
And what's funny about that too is that when this movie came out, it was like before. It was before like Goodfellas and stuff like that, right? Where Joe Pesci. It was around the time that he did, you know, My Cousin Vinny. You know what I mean?
Joe Pesci.
Yeah. When he did that movie, it was around that time period, and so he was doing that, and then like, you know, Home Alone, things like that. Those are things that I saw him in. You know what I mean? So then I think he goes to doing like Goodfellas and some of these gangster flicks, and you're just like, wow. You know what I mean? You're like, this is a total, like, you know, 180 from the type of character you expect him to be in.
Well, and you know, we look at those, but this is kind of like, he only had one huge role that I think he was proud of after this movie, and that was Casino, because that Casino came out a year after this.
He was the big bad in that one.
Yeah, and I think he was up for an award for that one. But I mean,
he should have won it, in my opinion. But
yeah, I mean, after that though, after Casino, it was Eight Heads in a Duffel Bag, Gone Fishing. You know, some of these movies that just didn't do too well. So you know, you don't.
So
blame
he started
him.
out with comedy, then got to the serious flicks, and then it almost seems like he didn't get as much praise for like these serious roles that he should have won Oscars for.
Well, I mean,
and
you say you start out with a comedy, but you know, one of his first roles was in Raging Bull.
Well, okay,
you know, and he was nominated for a supporting actor for.
Well,
that.
then remember he was also in Batman 2. You know what I mean? As the Penguin.
No, you're.
I mean, that was Danny DeVito. That's right.
Yeah,
they're both really small men.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, but
what was I thinking? What was he in?
You were probably thinking of Moonwalker.
That's right.
Yeah, because there's that Michael Jackson Moonwalker movie where he was the bad guy in that.
That's right. But it was...
And Lethal Weapon 2, he played Leo Getz. Whatever you want, Leo Getz.
Yeah.
Get it? Get it?
But
Get it?
Okay. Exactly.
Okay.
Very, very frustrating. But no, you see what I'm saying? Like, these type of roles, it's like he goes from, okay, count out Raging Bull, but I'm saying, you know, other than that, you know, like Home Alone, and then, you know, a lot of Lethal Weapon, and, you know, Funny Men, you know what I mean? And then he goes into these gangster pieces. And then, you know, where he should have won Oscars for this stuff, you know, where the other stuff that he did, okay. You know, but I mean, he should have won Oscars for these kind of films.
You're talking about stuff like you said, Raging Bull, And then another Scorsese movie, Once Upon a Time in America.
Yeah.
Man on Fire. Obviously you have the Lethal Weapon, but I mean the ones that you're talking about, like the Goodfellas, JFK, even My Cousin Vinny. Casino, Bronx Tale, different things like that. So, but yeah, I mean, after he did With Honors, he did Casino in '95. Heads and Duffel Bag, Gone Fishing, and Lethal Weapon 4, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then he was done until 2006. And and then after that, he only had about 5 movies in 20 years.
Like I watched The Irishman, and he was great in that movie. But
I have to confess, I still have not seen The Irishman. I know, I've been wanting to see it really bad.
It's a good movie, but you're finding out from actual gangsters around that time period that are saying basically what this guy had said about Jimmy Hoffa was not true. None of he wasn't there when he was killed. He was nowhere near there. I mean, they basically took that story and said, no, this is false.
Was it Pacino that played Hoffa in that, or was it De Niro?
No, it was Al Pacino.
Either of them.
It was Al Pacino.
Yeah, because I remember him saying
Hoffa.
something like, what is it? A knife versus a gun.
Yeah.
I remember that.
You don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
Well, there was that, but it was something like, anybody can shoot a gun or something like that. I can't remember what it was. But.
No, and just a little side note on that. But Pacino's such he's a great actor. The only problem is that he's one of those actors that do it really well, but they play the same character in every single movie they act. It's just one degree from another. I mean, like, he might be a lot more angrier and a lot more violent, but it's still kind of the same character, like when you see him in
do you remember Howard from Big Bang Theory, his Pacino?
Yeah.
Was it him or somebody off the community? I think it was Howard, but he does a really good. He's like, whoa, come on. Just the way he stretches his voice.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that's a side note and everything else like that, but coming back to that, Joe Pesci tends to do the same thing. I think.
I didn't know Anna Paquin was in that movie. The Irishman.
Yes. That was a great film, though. It was great, but it wasn't. Again, it was just De Niro. It just seemed like he's done for. Like as far as I just wasn't impressed with his performance. You know what I mean? Like as far as his acting, I'm just saying, like now he's doing a bunch of comedies, and he's been doing a lot of comedies for the last 10,
Stardust.
15 years. Yeah,
I remember his role in Stardust.
Yeah,
that was like the most.
Analyze This or something like that.
Yeah.
He does some of those comedies too. But
well, this movie With Honors came out in 1994, and it was pretty much right towards the end of Joe Pesci's mainstream career.
Yeah.
You also had it came out in 1994, and it was directed by Alec Keshishian.
Say that 3 times fast.
Keshishian. The writer was William Mastromoni. That's my best pronunciation. I'm sure I'm butchering it. But
I know you are.
But he was actually a playwright before he did this. So I thought that was kind of interesting, especially with how kind of disjointed the movie seems. You know what I mean?
Like what do you mean disjointed? In what way?
Just like the plot points and the character points. So this movie, it wasn't as good. When I watched it again, it wasn't as good as I remembered it being. I still love it. It was still a great movie. But as we say, as you get older, you recognize more and more things, and I don't think people watched this movie or gotten any enjoyment out of this movie because of the characters or the overall plot together. I think people enjoyed it because of the actors that played the characters, and different parts in the movie. So you have, your different funny parts, but then you got a bunch of stuff that doesn't land. You got some good dramatic stuff from Joe Pesci, but you got some stuff that doesn't land and stuff that kind of goes back and forth because, he's like this weird kind of, eccentric character, but then he breaks it down and he goes toe to toe with a Harvard professor and kind of like
and all he did was
him.
Yeah, all he does is work, worked in a boatyard. for the merchant marines, you know,
Well, you got
cleaning and fixing boats or
yeah,
something.
but what was
right?
it called? Asbestosis or something?
Asbestos.
Well, asbestos is the material, but whenever
the
it
disease.
causes that
Yeah.
that deterioration of the lungs or whatever, it's called asbestosis, I believe.
Yeah.
Something like that. But it's basically when the individual fibers of the asbestos get into the the different sacs and stuff in your lung, making it to where you can't take full breaths or whatever. So, anyways, this movie came out in, like I said, 1994 as Joe Pesci. He's basically the lead of the movie. He's the top billed, even though I would say that Monty is more of
Brendan
the
Fraser's
main character
character,
lead. Yeah. So you have Brendan Fraser that plays Monty, Moira Kelly that me and Drew we like to call Toe Pick. Which we'll explain. But she plays
movie.
Courtney. Patrick Dempsey, also known as McDreamy, plays Everett. Josh Hamilton plays Jeff, and of course you have Gore Vidal as the professor, Pitt Cannon. Do you know this Josh Hamilton guy that played Jeff from anything? Because he was the only one where I was like, I just want to be like, shut up, get out of this movie.
Yeah, but
He was
they had
kind of a
to have
doofus.
somebody that was like anti Joe Pesci's character.
I know,
You what I mean?
and that was everybody to begin with, but he was the only
in
one.
a way, but if you notice, like even when he brought him home for the first time into the van, Patrick Dempsey's character went out to the van, tried to give him what was it? What was it? That he
Just
gave
giving him a drink, I think.
Yeah,
because he had his wine and everything. So they were drinking and everything, but they kind of hit it off right away because he's like, Joe Pesci's character was talking to him about the van, which Patrick Dempsey's character ever owned, and it was either him or the roommate that was gone that owned it. But either way, he's like, how many bottles of these wine, how many bottles of those wine would you give me if I fix this van for you? And the Everett guy goes, I'll give you 6. And they went back and forth, and he was like,
said 9.
No, 9. And he goes, no, 7. Or no, he goes 8 or something. He goes 7. He goes 8, and then Patrick Dempsey goes 9. You drive a hard bargain. So he went up when he didn't have to, and then of course Joe Pesci's little line was, didn't you used to work at a savings and loan? Talking about how badly he is with money and everything. But yeah, as far as the Josh Hamilton guy, I guess there's a need for him, but I could have done without him.
Did you look him up just to see? I mean,
yeah, I've looked at it. It's just not a lot of things that pop out, that are worth talking about, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, because some of these movies are kind of, he was on Bull, Miss America.
Like, I'm sure he's done a lot. It's just this is one of these people, and it looks like there's a lot of TV, but this is just one of these people that I haven't followed as an actor, and I don't recognize it as an actor. Like, he's got plenty of credits and everything, but I just never followed him as an actor. And in this movie, he takes a lot longer for his opinion on the homeless guy to turn than everybody else.
Well, our 4 main characters here, I kind of feel like
the 4 main characters, you're discounting Joe Pesci?
No, I'm counting in Joe Pesci.
Joe Pesci, Moira Kelly,
I'm not
Brendan
talking
Fraser.
about Jeff, Josh Hamilton's
Okay, so we
character.
count. Okay,
but these 4 main characters, like I feel like I can't really think of a time that they had a better role, like a better job at acting. I'm trying to think.
McDreamy obviously blew up. Are you talking about they did a better
own personal
job, or that they were famous for?
No, my own personal opinion. Meaning that, like, I feel like they did a better job in acting in this movie than they have separately in other things that they've done.
So not necessarily what they were more famous for, but just what you think they did a better job at the craft of acting.
Right now, I would give maybe Brendan Fraser, maybe The Mummy. Again, this is all in my opinion, mind you. And then Joe Pesci definitely in like
Casino,
Goodfellas, and then Moira Kelly maybe in The Cutting Edge, and maybe like on One Tree Hill, she was pretty good. And then Patrick Dempsey, I never even got into what is it, Grey's Anatomy, I think it is. Yeah, I never got into that show. It's not that I hate on it and stuff like that. I just think that it just came out with like on the trails of ER and tried to do as well as ER. I mean, granted, it's one of the longest running TV shows on the planet, but it's also, I just never really got into it, I guess.
Yeah, it's like I want to start out by saying this is not a great movie. It's a very good movie in my opinion, but objectively, I don't think it's a great movie. It has some things that stand out. It's more about the collection of actors and their performances than the characters themselves having any kind of depth to them, or the situations having any kind of depth for them. Because I mean, you start to build up with, oh, this guy is obviously going to die because he's sick. Then they start talking about his family. It's like, okay, we're gonna have to have a connection with his family, but that went by real quick. So there wasn't a lot of deep digging explorations of what's going on in each of these characters' lives. Obviously, there's more with Joe Pesci and Brendan Fraser's characters than any of the others.
Yeah.
But I just feel like a lot of the Jeff stuff could be swapped out for digging more into the deeper, themes of the characters or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I love this movie. I mean, again, it's got to be on my top list, but it's just I see where you're going with that. It's just there wasn't a lot of character development. It almost seemed like you could tell that this was a new director, and this was like one of his first pictures, if not his first picture that he directed. Kind of the way that it was set up, because it was like, if you notice, like during the Christmas time where he called his mom and, I'm not going to be able to make it home, Mom. And, it kind of hinted at the fact that it was just him and his mom for so many years. And, she did the best she could, and the dad walked out, and,
it's a little overboard on the melodrama.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then when he calls, oh yeah, I'm just too busy. I'm not going to be able to come home. And it's kind of like, okay, so we're dipping our toes in, but we're not really going there, but we're going to keep dipping our toes in until we get to the end of the film.
Right.
And then really have no kind of background to it,
Yeah. So what I was going to say, and one of the things I wrote down is, and what I was trying to explain, it's more about the collection of actors than the characters. It's about the situations and some good lines and speeches. It's like a collection of things, but that haven't been fused together as one movie. Usually you have a whole collection of things in a movie or in a story or whatever, but you have to find a way to fuse it all together to be one big story with background information and everything. But this feels like a bunch of different moments. Some of them hit, some of them don't. And some of the speeches are good, but it doesn't match up with some of the character attributes later or whatever. So it's a bunch of different scenes and things, but that they haven't been fused together. And I thought that maybe that's because that the writer was a playwright, because that's what plays are, right? You have a bunch of different situations and everything, but it's not like a movie that you get entrenched to. You're watching performances on a stage, but they're cut up by breaks when they have to reset.
Yeah.
When they have to reset scenes and different things like that. So I don't know, maybe that's why the scenes are written like that. It's kind of like a Hallmark movie where you would only watch it for the actors and the situation, right? You watch it because it's like some old actor that hasn't been in anything in a while, and it's a Christmas movie. But that doesn't say anything about the actual story and the character they're playing.
Exactly. And the character, like with Courtney and Everett, it's just like, if they were going to be like side characters, let them be side characters. Don't try to, slowly, pull in, Moira Kelly to start being the love interest, even though they try to hint at it at the beginning, and then it's just like, this person doesn't show up for this. And, it's just kind of really, really like there's no meat to their acting.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
There was no meat to Moira Kelly's acting or Patrick Dempsey. I mean, they have the chops to do it. Both those actors can act. It just didn't seem like the development was there. It was just, you kind of left hanging to a point of, maybe it would have been interesting to learn a bit more of that, or just have them be serious background characters and just put, Brendan Fraser and Joe Pesci in 99.9% of the movie,
right,
and just let go with it. You know what I mean? Stop trying to bring in a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
We probably needed a little bit more also between Monty and Courtney, right?
Yeah. I mean,
because well, we can kind of get.
There's no
later,
character development there at all.
So. Obviously Walt Whitman is a big part of this book. Yeah. They quote him a lot and everything, and the character of Simon that Joe Pesci plays, it's kind of Walt Whitman-esque as far as him being like a rebel and outsider type person. But we got that, and we got the Walt Whitman retread in a academic setting. 4 years previous to this, in 1990, or it was either 89 or 1990 with Dead Poets Society with Robin Williams. We got the Captain, My Captain, and after that, we had like Scent of a Woman, School Ties, and this movie, probably a couple others where it's all about, that Walt Whitman-esque exploration of education versus free thinking and society and all that kind of stuff. So I just thought that was kind of interesting because you have those movies, but then like you had like Scent of a Woman, School Ties, this movie that tried to kind of copy that same thing that
well, Brendan Fraser was in School Ties, right?
Right. He was in there with was it Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Chris O'Donnell,
I
and
remember
the guy that always
Chris
plays
O'Donnell
bad
played a big
guys.
role in that one, didn't he?
Yeah, I think Chris O'Donnell. So I think that one was, he was Jewish and he went to this prestigious school, but had, pretty much everybody who was there was anti-Semitic, and especially the friends that he befriended, Matt Damon, Chris O'Donnell. They were so when they find out that he is Jewish, they turn against him, and so it's kind of it deals with stuff like that, which I wouldn't mind getting into, talking about sometime, but. Anyways, this came out in 1994, as I said. It was written by William Mastroianni. That's as close as that. But like I said, he's a playwright, and we went over all the people that were in it. What would you say is the best part about this movie, or maybe even the best? What's the best? What's your favorite part about the movie?
My favorite part. I like the scenery. I like the snow. I think it just kind of made it the story have some sort of focus in a way. I mean, it's weird to say that, but
just because of the season it was filmed
in,
or?
Yeah, the season, and it's just the crunch of going to school and being taking it so seriously that basically saying that whether they fail or succeed in school is going to determine their whole entire lives.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it just shows the importance of, if you decide to go to college, to take it seriously, because that's how it really is, especially in these higher academies and things like that, and higher institutes like Harvard and Yale and things like that. It's got to be a crunch like that constantly.
Yeah.
It's like a job, but worse, because you don't know nothing yet. This literally what you're trying to do is learn everything there. And it just kind of like, I like the fact that it was surrounded around school and that time of year, and just kind of felt the importance of what they were trying to do, and how he was trying to be successful no matter what it took in a way too. I thought that was important. That's another favorite part, besides the whole weather and the ambiance and everything else like that, was just how he took it so seriously that he had to succeed in life, that he would just give up everything else and nothing else mattered besides doing extremely well in school.
Yeah, and to go off of that, the premise of this movie is basically you have Monty, played by Brendan Fraser, and he's getting towards graduation, getting close to graduation. He's just got to write his final thesis for his one of his classes. He's a political science major, and to graduate with honors, he has to do very well on this thesis that he's writing. He's almost done with it. He's got like 88 pages. And he goes to work on it, and his computer breaks down one night, and he only has one hard copy. So with his computer broken down, he takes his one copy, hard copy, and he goes to make copies of it in the library. But he falls on the way, hurts his leg, and drops his thesis down this grate that somehow feeds into a basement.
And somehow it comes out with a cast that literally, he's able to still kind of somewhat walk on it when he goes down there.
Oh, you're talking about his leg?
Yeah.
And they didn't have a cast on his leg, did he?
Oh, yeah. There was a point that
but
he didn't have a
I think
cast
they wrapped
afterwards.
it up, maybe. Oh, yeah, well, afterwards. Yeah,
Yeah,
once he got it fixed.
After that night or whatever. But, yeah, it was just, I just kind of was like, there's no way you're going to hurt that.
So his thesis went down there, and he goes down to retrieve it, and he finds a homeless guy who refers to himself as a bum, so that's what I'll refer to him as in this. But he's a bum who lives in the Harvard library basement. It's real nice and warm there. He lives by the boiler room. He's got like his own stuff all over the boiler room, and just kind of got a bed set up, and real nice and everything. But he finds he starts in, and by the time Brendan Fraser's character catches up to him, he's burning some of these pages for heat and everything. Which I don't understand why he's burning them, because those furnaces would run overnight, right?
Yeah,
like Harvard would pay for those to keep that fire lit.
Yes.
Why are you?
Boilers are you're pumping gas through there. Okay, so gas is used to light it. You're not
even as far back then. I mean, it could have been back then. Maybe it was cold.
Do you realize how much money those schools get that they can afford to buy probably a new boiler every single year?
But that's something that I just thought about. I was like, well, why is he trying to keep that fire going? But that being said, maybe the boiler turns on and off to regulate temperature, and he wants to keep it going full time because he's actually in the boiler room.
Or it's a plot hole,
So he goes in there and he begs the guy to stop burning his papers, tells him how important it is. He needs that to graduate with honors. And so the bum basically says, look, I'm going to keep it, but I'll give you 1 page for every favor you do for me, because he could care less about it, and he's read some of it, and he thinks it's all sellout garbage material. But he sees an opportunity to get through the winter, because when you're in that type of situation, all you really care about is making it through the winter, trying to stay warm and all that, especially if you live in a place like that. So that's the premise of the movie, and it's dropped about halfway to 3/4 of the way through the movie. And so then we just focus on these two or whatever, but not much goes with that plot. That's the plot that brings them two together, forces them to have to be together.
Yeah, and what it is Brandon Fraser's character ends up calling the cops because he's ticked off that he has to do good things to.
Because he's a pompous guy.
Because he's a pompous character. I mean, he's not pompous in the way that like he grew up like rich or with money.
Because I think he was there based on grades, whereas people like Courtney and Everett, the DJ dude and stuff,
got cut off.
They were all there because they had rich families.
So he ends up calling the cops, getting the security involved, them actually removing him, and then him going in front of court with a bunch of other homeless people. And then if they were going to plead guilty, to just sit down, and then not guilty to step forward. And Joe Pesci obviously steps forward and is the only one that does that. And then he smarts off to the judge, like he's kind of one of these anti-government type characters or anti the man characters, that kind of thing. And so. He goes up in front of the judge and she starts, being sarcastic and insulting the judge, basically acting like he knew everything, about law, and he knows where his rights are, which, it seems like he does have a pretty good understanding of it. But then, he gets a fine on him, for contempt in court, and, Brendan Fraser's character steps up and asks to pay for it. Now, Joe Pesci doesn't want, to have to owe Brendan Fraser's character anything, because he wants to be able to stay. He even says it. He wants to stay warm. He basically wants to be comfortable for the rest of the winter.
Well, afterwards, he's trying to, get a stack of newspapers to make some money here and there and everything. And, Brendan Fraser's just like, come on, I'll give you this, I'll give you that, I'll give you a place to stay, because he felt bad for getting it, and for where he'd have to sleep. And, Joe Pesci says, Simon, I guess, says, I had a place to stay. I had a warm place to sleep. I had a warm place and 8 miles of books. I had a freaking palace.
Because they thought he was Walt Whitman's ghost, because he was staying in the basement there, and so that literally people. I mean,
how heavy-handed can you be?
I know
to say this. Have some homeless guy and he's being confused with Walt Whitman.
I know.
It's like that's really trying to lay on the Walt Whitman influences here.
I was thinking about this. When he took those newspapers out, I got to think that, newspapers, that whole system, the way they set them up, right? You put it in a quarter and you can literally take all of them if you want to.
They did the same thing in the Venom movie. Remember the homeless chick that would sit and sell the papers?
But, I mean, it's got to be the most stolen thing ever in history, if you think about it. I mean, because people could do that, and I guarantee you, you get somebody that's homeless and they end up going and doing what Joe Pesci did and walking around downtown New York or something like that back in the day, when nothing was online or anything else like that, but they would get these newspapers and steal the stack and then sell them, for a quarter a pop, because they were probably like 35 cents. And so they were saving, a dime, for these newspapers. But I mean, I was like, man, that's got to be the stupidest thing to ever invent, no insult to the family of the person that did invent it. Shows but, come on now.
It shows you how good the human race does on the trust system.
Failed horribly. Well, it's a horrible invention.
Well, it starts out with a voiceover by McDreamy himself.
Yes.
And he plays Everett in this movie. He's kind of like the rebellious hippie jock
anarchist,
DJ,
whatever.
Yeah. So he's played by Patrick Dempsey, who's going to be a surgeon a few years from now. But so it starts off with a voiceover, and I think it would have worked really well if that voiceover would have stayed throughout the movie. You have like a third party person who's not really part of the main three cast with Moira Kelly, Brendan Fraser, and Joe Pesci or whatever, but it's a tertiary character that can talk about it and can give little exposition, I guess, every once in a while.
If you notice, they do this a lot in a lot of movies. They'll do that. They'll usually.
But I like it if it's done right.
Yeah, and they'll have characters that are DJs or something like that. If there's radio DJs in the movie, like a lot of the horror movies,
like an eight-legged freak.
Yeah,
you had the one dude that was
there. Or I'm thinking of what is that scary movie?
Eight-legged freaks with the dude up there.
No, that's not it. But anyways,
was it Eight-legged freaks?
No.
Okay.
Anyways, it's just kind of one of those things where I've seen a lot of movies do that. If they'll have a DJ or a character that's a DJ in because they do it. I think they do it on Jessica Jones and but anyways, like his character, I did not know he was going to be a surgeon. For some reason, I thought he was going to be still like a DJ or something.
No, he wasn't going to be a surgeon. It was.
I knew the other guy was.
It was Jeff that was going to be a doctor.
That's right.
I don't know what. I can't remember what Everett was doing, but he didn't seem like he was real motivated to be doing anything serious.
Yeah.
So who knows? Which I got more to say about him and his situation there in the house and everything, but I thought it was funny how he was running past everybody like he was badass at the opening whenever you had Moira Kelly's Courtney, who was leading her track team or whatever, and he's like passing everybody like he's awesome, but he like literally just started running 2 minutes ago, and these guys have probably been running for like an hour or two already. And how she's like, don't pay attention to him, and he takes off like he's funny and everything. And if I was one of those runners, I'd be like, yeah, okay, you just started running. But anyways, what did you think about whenever he brought up his computer to work on his thesis? That MS-DOS programming that came up, no Microsoft Word,
and the fact that he didn't back up anything, which just kind of, it didn't seem right. I think it was a plot hole in the story, but why wouldn't you back up something like that? You know what I mean? I know he printed out a bunch of copies, but
no, I think he didn't. I think he only had the one hard copy, and
he had already printed out like 88 pages. That's what
right. 88 pages of the one, but that's still one copy of 88 pages. And that's all he had. And then his computer went down. It's like, well, maybe right now is when I should make copies. That's pretty. I mean, anybody if the thesis is that important, you should probably have a lot.
Well, and you're introduced to, like you at first when you're introduced to Brendan Fraser's character at the beginning, you kind of think, okay, maybe he's kind of a little bit of a joker, he's kind of messing around and stuff like that. And then you really get to know
he's a sourpuss.
Yes, then you get to know his character is just all business.
Which is so anti Brendan Fraser too, really because in all of his other movies, well, I say all of them, you have like Crash and School Ties and stuff where he's a sourpuss again or whatever. But most of it, he's got this kind of eclectic, crazy personality about him, but also like the leading man looks and charm and everything. So,
man, he missed the mark. I hate to say it. I like a lot of his movies, and I like him as an actor. I just think, from what I hear, he just had like the worst luck when it came to Hollywood.
Yeah,
you know?
well, I mean, I wanted to get into that, but I guess we can get into it now. You know, what happened to Brendan Fraser? You know, it had a lot of a lot of it had to do with his bad decisions.
Yeah.
As far as choosing what movies he wants to do, Monkey Bone, different things like that. That were just.
Man,
I think that was like a $75 million budget, and it only made like $7 million or something. It was so bad, but anyways, it had to do with that. But there was also some very serious, disturbing allegations. Not only allegations, but horrible things that has happened to him. You know, he had some. Whenever he got a divorce, he had some financial issues that stem from that. He was paying, and maybe to this day or whatever, but when he got divorced, he was paying $75,000 a month.
Good Lord.
Which equates out to $900,000 annually, basically $1 million annually. He was paying for child support.
That's insane.
What? Well, we can get into that, but I don't want to get into that. I think that the whole divorce and legal proceedings that come from divorce, they can be extremely unfair a lot of the times, not taking into account specific situations and all that kind of stuff. But he had that to deal with, and also he had claimed, at least allegedly, he had been sexually assaulted.
Oh, really?
Did you hear about that?
No.
It was some president of some studio. I don't think it was a movie studio. It might have been like. Had to do with like the Golden Globes Academy or something like that, the Golden Globes organization. Anyways, some guy, some old dude or whatever, they were in a situation and he grabbed, this is what Brendan Fraser said, that he was grabbed in the butt and it made him feel awkward and stuff, because what is he supposed to say and what can he say when it's this person in power type of thing, right? Same thing that's happening with some of the Me Too stuff. So this happened to him, and it put him in. He spiraled into depression for just this one instance and everything, because he had been assaulted basically. And like I say, allegedly, because I don't know if it's been proven in court. I don't know if it's been settled or whatever. But so that's the type of stuff he had to deal with, and it just started going downhill from there. He kind of started to make a resurgence with that Journey to the Center of the Earth.
But he became kind of the second one.
But he became kind of a leading man because of that. And then when the director of that left the movie, and it was because he had differences with the studio. Brendan Fraser, he decided to stick with the director, and left with the director instead of sticking around. And so he was replaced with The Rock. Yeah. So that was he should have let the director go and kept doing it. But then The Rock's ended up being more popular. Now, was that because it was a better movie, or was it because it was just The Rock, and The Rock just has more star power?
I like the one better with Will Ferrell, anyways.
No, that's I know it's Land of the Lost, and that was off of that old TV show.
I know,
Land
but
of the Lost.
It was still. I thought it was. I mean, same basis really, but I mean, it still was a lot better. I thought, you know, and I just think I think the biggest thing for Brendan Fraser is, again, a lot of personal stuff, and it just seems like Hollywood's so disgusting, anyways. But
really does.
And I'm laughing at it, but I'm not really thinking it's funny. I'm just saying that how, they're not set up like normal jobs. You know what I mean? Right. It's just a lot of politics in it. There's a lot of, it's your livelihood. A lot of these people don't speak up because they don't want to have to lose their careers. They don't want to have to lose, all their money and everything else, But I mean, I guess at a certain point, you really do got to have to have people come forward, or else it's just going to continue like a bad habit,
Yeah, it's always seemed that way to me, and I wanted no part of that. But
no, but having with Brendan Fraser, I think a lot of his problem was probably picking some of these roles. I mean, it was bad because there's some roles that he probably should not have taken on, and I mean, like I said, The Mummy's those movies are some of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
It's
When it comes to action movies, that's probably in my top 10.
Yeah.
At least the first one.
It's one of those movies I literally can watch over and over and over again without getting ever tired of it. You know what I mean? It's just, it's not like
and
you
I
find
do,
anything
you
new.
know,
It's
I'll
just
watch
good.
it 1 or 2 times a year, still to this day.
Yep. I mean, the later on it gets a lot more ridiculous. You know, I mean, the part 2, part 3 really, you know, has nothing to do.
I
with it.
actually liked part 2. I mean, I know it's got
part 2's good.
Terrible CGI of the Scorpion King with the Rock in it.
Oh, that's so bad. That was so bad.
So,
but, you know, for Brendan Fraser, but if you notice, a lot of these characters kind of fell off. Right when we get into 2000s, you know what I mean? Like a lot of these characters really like. Especially like Moira Kelly. I mean, really the last thing I can remember her doing is One Tree Hill. You know, I mean, I cannot really think of anything else she's done more recently. You know, Joe Pesci the same way. Yeah, like he did The Irishman, and then he did some of those gangster flicks afterwards. But really, in 2000 he kind of fell off. And
well, yeah, it was right around 90. I think it was just the fact that he had said before he'd never want to be a lead in a terrible movie. You know. I think he'd just been doing it for so long, and he had done such good movies. And then the last couple movies he had gotten were just like the Gone Fishing, the Heads in a Duffel Bag. It just wasn't good for him. And from what I've read, he just got tired of it. Like not like frustrated or whatever. He just kind of got bored with acting. Like it was kind of like I want to try some other stuff now. You know, and he loves to golf, so freed him up for much more golfing times and stuff like that. But I mean, he's come back, like I said, for. Robert De Niro's
Irishman.
He's come back for Robert De Niro's movie in 2006. I forgot what that was called. And then he came back again for The Irishman for Scorsese and everything. Right. But then, and then obviously, Patrick Dempsey had a lot of success after this.
In 2000,
he probably had, out of all this cast, he probably had more success past the year 2000 than any other person on this cast, just with Grey's Anatomy alone.
Right.
I still maintain that he's the worst part of all the Scream movies. His cop character in the third Scream movie, it was just terrible. It was awful the way he's just like, the only thing I know about trilogies is that in the third one, anything goes. And the way, like the look that he gave, it was just like, oh my God, I don't like this guy. I don't think he looked good with Sydney. They didn't have chemistry, but they tried to force them together at the end. I don't know.
Well, and with this movie, I thought he did a good job. I mean, he just played that character so well, and the fact that yes, they did cook his chicken, and that's for his radio show. But as you're saying, I mean, his radio show is not really what his career is going to be at this point, and it's kind of the way he reacted was just so awesome. I mean, he just transitioned from wanting to murder Joe Pesci's character to laughing and saying something totally not even on the subject.
Okay, so they ate the chicken. For some reason it took me a minute.
I picked it up right away
when Joe Pesci and Brendan Fraser sat down to eat, and they had the big chicken in the middle, a big roasted chicken and everything.
Yeah,
and I thought it was like maybe turkey because it was Christmas,
well,
right?
I did too. I
was like, oh, it's a Christmas turkey because and then he had said that it was chicken. And then as soon as Joe Pesci said something like, "Oh, I'm good for I like to use what's available to me," that type of thing, I was like
plucking it.
I was like, "Oh shit, that's the chicken." I was like, "That's Gorky."
Yeah.
And then when he had to get home, he's like, "Yeah, we got some news about Gorky for you." And but right before he left for Christmas vacation, he was just like, "I hate that chicken," So he was happy that it happened. Yeah. I thought that was one of those standout moments in this movie that was unique. That that gave this movie some character.
It really did, and his reaction. Patrick Dempsey's reaction afterwards was just classic because you just thought he was about to murder somebody, but yet he was just kind of like not even bringing it up.
Yeah, he just referenced something else completely.
And then his, Joe Pesci's role. I thought Joe Pesci in this movie played that character very, very well. I mean, the way he acted, just kind of, you felt like, he's that homeless guy. He's just that happy-go-lucky homeless guy that's hiding all this pain underneath, and it's very good. His development in this was great. You know what I mean? It was like I could actually see Robin Williams in that role in a way. Yeah. Couldn't you see it? Like it's something that Robin Williams would able to do is just basically make everybody on set laugh with him at his character.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I just thought he did a really, really well job. And you know, but again, like I think we were talking about it, but you know, him sounding all of a sudden, you know, super smart when he's going against the head of the government or the head of the what is it?
Whatever that department was.
Yeah, governmental education department or whatever. You know,
governmental education.
Yeah. But you know, the head of that department, you know, he's having that lecture and he just interrupts and comes out of nowhere with all this genius.
Well, it's like, yeah, I mean, this movie just has those. That's, you know, when I say we have the collection of moments that weren't, you know, like a fused together, well written story.
Yeah.
That's the type of stuff that I was talking about. Because, you know, when he's doing his happy go lucky funny shtick,
yeah,
the way he talks, you know, his little accent, they go,
Yeah.
boy, yo, boy, that's beautiful, Monty. You know, the way he's talking like that, you know what it reminded me? It reminded me of that Cliff guy, the alter ego personality of Andy Kaufman on Man of the Moon that Jim Carrey did.
Yeah, Jim Carrey did, yeah.
And, you know, obviously that Andy Kaufman did as well. But,
yeah.
But I mean, it was that same kind of like, you know, where Clifton was his name, something Clifton, and he was like, you know, the way he talks, it really reminded me of that. Now, I don't know if, I mean, obviously this movie came first, but Andy Kaufman came before this movie. So, I mean, it's one of those things. It's the way he does that. But I mean, so you have that, but then you have these real moments where, you know, where he's talking to the guy.
You asked the question, sir. Let me answer it. The genius of the Constitution is that it can always be changed. The genius of the Constitution is that it makes no permanent rule other than its faith in the wisdom of ordinary people to govern themselves.
Faith in the wisdom of the people is exactly what makes the Constitution incomplete and crude.
Crude? No, sir. Our founding parents were pompous, middle-aged white farmers, but they were also great men because they knew one thing that all great men should know, that they didn't know everything. They knew they were going to make mistakes, but they made sure to leave a way to correct them. They didn't think of themselves as leaders. They wanted a government of citizens, not royalty. A government of listeners, not lecturers. A government that could change, not stand still. The president isn't an elected king, no matter how many bombs he can drop, because the crude Constitution doesn't trust him. He's a servant of the people. He's a bum, okay, Mr. Pitcairn? He's just a bum. And the only bliss that he's searching for is freedom and justice.
You have beautiful moments with the Stones. I thought the Stones was a very
awesome.
unique idea because it's like, you know, you have somebody who's lived on the streets. They don't have a wallet with pictures. They don't have possessions. He has a bag of rocks, each rock reminds him. And you know, you've gone through stuff you've had in boxes or your parents' stuff or family member stuff where you look at something and you're like, I haven't seen this in 20 years, but it brings back that memory immediately.
That's how I am with music.
And that's, music is
a song will come on. I mean, not so much a smell. You know, smells are, again, you know, with me, you know, stop smoking and everything else like that. My sense of taste is coming back and things like that, and sense of smell is a lot better. And you know, so
after I had COVID, it all went away for me.
Well, for me, it's you know, it's kind of, you know, different for me. Like I said, it's the sounds. You know, it's the Christmas music, certain type of Christmas music. It brings back those memories, and just like that rock thing, for him, you know, I think everybody's got something like that. You know,
probably, but I mean, I just thought it was cool, such a cool representation, and then they brought it back later whenever he went
Brandon
to go
Fraser
meet.
Too, remember?
Well, yeah, there was that.
At the very end.
When they were leaving the
college. Or the graduation ceremony.
Was it when they were leaving graduation or after his funeral?
I
guess
no.
I guess it was graduating
maybe.
stuff. But either way, you know, he had passed on that tradition to Brendan Fraser.
Monty,
but when he went to go see his son, And his son was like, take a look, and then, Simon's grandchild comes out and it's like, who is that, Dad? And he goes, oh, that's nobody. He walks away. You see the pain.
Yeah.
And so he tries to smile,
his heart
because it's
breaks,
a kid. But his heart breaks because he sees what he could have had with his son, with his grandchild. And now he's being referenced as nobody to family that he loves, that doesn't love him back. And he painfully gets out of the van, bends down, picks up a rock, feels it so he can remember it, and puts it in his bag. Even though it's a painful memory, it's still an experience that's more valuable to him than money. And he picks it up and he puts it in. So that's one of those types of things where this movie is kind of weird sometimes, because it's like, why is that in there? And then you're like, wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, like, and then what was that famous line that he said? It was, the one thing he regretted. He said, the one thing I regretted was.
Well, he said, I only have one regret in life, but then he didn't really go into it. So basically, from the premise of Brendan Fraser doing favors to get his thesis back, basically Simon, who's Joe Pesci's character, moves in with Monty and them, to get through the winter. Doesn't quite move in the house at first, lets him sleep in the van for a few nights because this Jeff character, who I hate and shouldn't even be in this movie, he just would not have a heart, right? He wouldn't see this guy as a real guy, didn't want the guy in the house or anything like that, so he made him sleep out in the cold. And eventually, when everybody went on Christmas break, Monty was like, screw it, I don't care, I'm going to bring him in, because they had an old roommate that had left a while ago before they met Simon and stuff. So he really
hasn't come back.
Yeah, so they let him take it. He let him take his road. And when they came back, the other two were happy about it. Jeff wasn't too happy about it, but. So, they continued to do their shtick, and, it continues on from then. And basically, it gets to a point where, he does piss Simon off because he hasn't seen him as a human. He's like, you still don't see me as a human, do you?
Yeah.
And at the beginning, whenever he turned Simon into the cops and got him kicked out of the library, after he bailed Simon out, and Simon grabbed those newspapers, and he was like, I had a place. He's like, but you didn't see me as a human. And what I thought was funny about that is because he gives Monty crap for not seeing him as a man, right? He goes, you didn't see me as a man. You saw me, I was a piece of shit, But Simon did the same thing by withholding something that was obviously precious and valuable to Monty. So, instead of seeing Monty come down saying, look, this is very valuable for me, I need this to get through my college and stuff, and for him to say, oh, okay, well, no problem, here's your thesis, you got a couple bucks or whatever for some food or whatever, he withheld that and played that game with him. And so that wasn't treating him much like that he was a man, that the things that were important to him were important, so I don't know. That's just something.
I get that, because
I guess you could not make that connection, but that's the connection I made.
No, I see that.
I thought it was kind of hypocritical,
and also too, it was kind of referring to, the state of, I felt like in a way it was talking about the government in the sense that what they were trying to say is that the government will help you, the government will take care of you, the government will, the Constitution is pointless and all this other stuff. But then when like Joe Pesci says, the Constitution is not pointless. The Constitution is not old and pointless. You know what I mean? He says it has a point.
Right, he said there's a genius to it, and they're talking about how it stops the president from being a
dictator
and a tyrant.
Yeah, and I just felt like
your watch is talking to us.
I know. And it just kind of felt like he, was saying same thing with the college, him going to college and learning to, get this big degree from Harvard, and Joe Pesci was kind of looking at him like, no, the government is not there to, the school's not there to take care of you. The school's not there to baby you or anything else like that. It's there to teach you. You're supposed to learn, but you're supposed to kind of make up your own mind. You know what I mean? Where I feel like it's lacking a lot lately, where it's, these schools really want you to to believe the way they believe and believe in the things that they want to believe, rather than just teaching you knowledge or trying to remove knowledge they don't like, just teaching you straight up facts, you know what I mean? And make your opinion from that. You know what I mean? Everybody should have a differing opinion when you go into school, and you should leave school with still your own opinion. You should not leave school with somebody else's opinion or somebody else's way of telling you how to think. They shouldn't be teaching you how to think. They should be just teaching you facts and history and knowledge.
Like we were talking about Starship Troopers episode.
Yeah, and I kind of felt like Joe Pesci, he knew enough to be dangerous. You know what I mean? He really did. I mean, that judge, he was just pretty much, basically getting everything he wanted out of it. You know what I mean? Saying it's public land or whatnot, you know, and that everybody was welcome, blah, blah, blah. But, it's kind of the same thing. It was just kind of referencing, how, you got to really take care of yourself. You got to really take care of who you are and what you believe in. And, that's why Brendan Fraser's character near the end of the movie decides, I've got to rewrite my whole thesis, on government. And he was a lot more a way of thinking that Joe Pesci was.
Well, because the whole time, the whole point of the movie was, I think it was Joe Pesci saw in Brendan Fraser the son that he had abandoned, or someone close to the son that he abandoned, someone that needed guidance, based on his personal beliefs. And I think Brendan Fraser saw, in him, eventually the wisdom that could be imparted from him to Brendan Fraser, and that he could have gotten in a father, a father figure, because Brendan Fraser's Monty, his father left, right?
Yeah.
So, it's all about getting Monty to think of life a different way. His life is all about his school and graduating with honors. And Courtney even says to him, "It's not your life." He goes, "This is my life." And she goes, "It's not your life. This isn't your life. Getting a title after your name on graduation day, it helps with jobs, with if you have magna, summa cum laude, or whatever. But that's not even your life. It's not worth giving your parts of yourself up for it. And so that's why Joe Pesci's just getting him to, or the Simon character is getting to him to think of a different way, because the way the thesis was going was in line with his professor. The professor liked where he was going with it, which means it was probably pompous.
Well, remember what he said at first. He said the professor likely probably approves a lot of these thesis statements, and so probably none of these theses are written without the professor pretty much knowing what's going to be shown to him on these paper. But what Monty did was he switched it on him, and just like the guy said, he said you're on track. I mean, he said it several times. You're on track, to graduate with honors. You're on track to graduate.
Because he had read like the intro to the thesis,
and he really liked it, and he agreed wholeheartedly with it. But as you could tell at the end of the movie, you realize that the professor probably respected him more. The fact that he had a totally opposite position, and that he learned so much over a period of time that. The professor showed him a lot more. It seemed like he showed him a lot more respect as a scholar by saying, I don't agree with it, and this is not what I believe in, but I agree that you may had your own belief and your own opinion about something, that you didn't need my approval to make it great.
And that kind of almost shows me that the professor might have changed the way.
Exactly.
Because earlier he seems like wouldn't budge on his beliefs type of person and everything, and seems like somebody that would purposely give somebody bad marks because their thesis is nonsensical. Or in his words, it'd be nonsensical, where it was really they just don't believe him. Maybe that little butt chewing he got from Simon and the lecturing and stuff that he got from him.
He literally had no retort, and in fact, his whole classroom was clapping. So, in a kind of way that maybe that professor was wrong. Maybe he realized it.
And maybe he at least realized, like, look, I'm not wrong, but... maybe it's okay to let people have their own opinions or what, or whatever. Maybe I don't know everything.
Well, and you could tell that he really wanted to give him with honors, but that because he was his thesis director or whatever. Mm-hmm. He was in charge of, molding his thesis or helping him mold his thesis, and you could tell he really wanted to give it to him because it was that good. But at the same time, Brandon Fraser's character did not care, except for, do you remember seeing when he stood up by himself and he said, so-and-so, Monty, blah, 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 for, what do you say, political science or whatever, and then he just kind of stood up. You see his face. I mean, look, so defeated there.
Well, when the teacher shut him down and everything.
Well, no, when it wasn't announced magna cum laude.
Oh yeah.
After his name, he just looked so destroyed.
He looked like it was a regret that he didn't have that, but it didn't look like you would have thought it would from the Monty that we see at the beginning of the movie. So I think he did, he did learn that, it wasn't all about just getting that honors, rider on it or whatever.
Yeah.
It's more about the experience. But yeah, I feel like he did have, a little bit of him was probably like, man, I really wish I could have gotten that. But it wasn't affecting him as much as it would.
But it changed him. His experience over the past, it seemed, like 6 months? Maybe 6 month time, like a semester or something.
The snow had melted.
Yeah, but over a 6 month period to a year period or whatever, it just seemed like he changed so much as a person, and realized that there's other people in the world besides himself, and that this girl has been, pining over him as much as he's apparently been pining over her, because he even says something to Joe Pesci's character about it.
Yeah, they were both in love with each other.
Yeah,
but just didn't say anything. Did you know the snow wasn't real?
It was fake. I read that.
Yeah, like when they got there, they had like 6 feet of snow
already
for continuation and to be able to work in it and all this kind of stuff. They had to clear away all the new snow or the real snow and put in fake snow.
Didn't they do that in like Home Alone too? I heard they did something like that in Home Alone.
Yeah. So like,
or maybe
all
it was just a bad
I'm
storm in Home Alone.
I'm pretty sure like all the Home Alone like exterior shots and stuff were all fake. But
so I got his obituary real quick. It was right at the end of the film, and it basically, he said, this is Brandon Fraser reading this, Monty's character, and he said, Simon B. Wilder bid it on a Wednesday. He saw the world out of a porthole of a leaky freighter, was a collector of memories, and interrupted a lecture at Harvard. In 50 years on Earth, he did only one thing he regretted. He is survived by his family. And, and then he goes on to comment on the different characters, around him and everything else like that, But it just, the fact that they said he did only one thing he regretted.
And I think that was, that's all you need to know, because of the conversation you had with Monty, that the one thing he regretted was abandoning his family.
Yeah, and I kind of think, I know it says he is survived by his family.
That's what you put in all our obituaries.
Right, but it's almost like that's the one thing he regretted. He survived by his family.
Yeah, the fact
Nothing
that it
else
says he
happened.
only did one thing he regretted, and you're like, okay, what is that? And you're waiting for it, but then it doesn't come, and then he says you're survived by your family.
Which, in a sense, if you think about it that way, that's kind of like his regret, because he survived by his son and his grandchild, who he never really got to know, or they knew him.
Or just the fact that whole survived by his family came right after the whole...
And it's written by the director. The director wrote this out.
No, Simon actually wrote it.
Okay. Well,
story.
but you know what I'm saying? And the way he used that line where he said he is survived at, like, immediately after, the one thing he regretted, it's yeah, he starts saying good things about, the 4 other people that he lived with, but in a way it's kind of like also saying that's the one thing he regrets,
right.
In a way. So
my favorite thing about this movie is Moira Kelly as Courtney. Yeah. I think she was the best part about this movie. That includes Joe Pesci. I think Joe Pesci, his character, was held back a little bit by the kind of back and forth bouncing he was doing between his serious shtick, his funny shtick, and his sick shtick.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to make it like some kind of a Forrest Gump or like a Dead Poet Society type of movie where, it was very profound in what it was saying or doing. But it just wasn't that profound. It's a really good, enjoyable movie. I like the characters and I like the actors in it. But, it's not a... if it didn't win, obviously it didn't win any Oscars or anything like that. But, if I knew, if I was as old as I am now, back then I would have said, yeah, that doesn't deserve any Oscars. But it's still a good movie for what it does, and it does have some good advice in it here and there, as far as, you know, the advice one that he had for, you know, all the students based on the Constitution and what power the president has and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, also the things that he was telling Monty, it's like, you know, and the things that Courtney were telling Monty about, this isn't your life and stuff. So, you know, it has those themes and everything. But I really like the actors that are in it, that are playing the characters. And Moira Kelly's Courtney in it. There's something about her that's just so magnetic in this movie, and I think that's one of the main reasons I liked this when I was younger, is because she's just so gorgeous, so beautiful, and so unique. The way that she talks, the way that she acts, you know, nowadays you have a lot more, I guess, equal roles when it comes to men and women. And what they're doing in, you know, as far as, you know, you'll have a lot more women action stars that are saving men and different things like that in movies nowadays. But back then it was kind of always like, you know, the men doing those outlandish, going out there things to show their love or whatever it may be. You know, she had even said to him, she told him that he was perfect. And, you know, usually you hear, you know, in these rom-coms or whatever, you know, you hear the men telling the woman that, you know, you're perfect and everything. But the fact that she was like, you know, you're, you know, telling Monty that he was perfect and all this kind of stuff, it was just kind of an interesting turn on its head, I think. But her attitudes towards everything, even the way she talks, Moira Kelly, the way she talks is just so unique.
Well, I think she has a serious problem, though, too, of kind of playing a lot of the same character, you know, it just to different degrees.
She plays a strong
like
woman.
Joe Pesci does too, you know. But I liked, to be honest with you, I'd probably have to say my favorite part of the movie really was Joe Pesci's sad clown. You know what I mean? And no, I mean that's I think that's a term, isn't it, in acting? I mean, the sad clown type of acting. You know, where it's you know, you're funny on the outside, but you're crying on the inside.
Well, I know you have like the what do they call them? The theater
faces.
Yeah, you got the happy of the. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, but you know, having Joe Pesci where he was just, you know, ridiculous. You know, he tried to make everybody laugh around him. You know, yeah, he was a little bit pompous at times, thinking he knew more than and better than everyone else. But you know, at also times, just, you know, he just played that sad clown so well, I thought.
Yeah, this is the mask that we were thinking of, the sad clown or whatever, is from Dionysus. You know, the masks that they have there, where it's, you know, a comedy or a tragedy or whatever it means. I don't know. This movie is one of those that, like I said, it was a lot. In my head, it was better than it was actually. You know what I mean? I don't want to say it was worse, because it just was less than I remember it being, and maybe that's because we've seen so many other movies that have done what this is trying to do, but better. And so I'm used to a little bit more substance. Where in this movie, everybody felt a little disconnected, except for Monty and Simon. But even then, you know, they bonded, but not as much as you would think that they would based on trailers and everything. Which reminds me, one of the big parts about this movie was the soundtrack to the movie and the hype, you know, leading up to it and everything. And you had, you know,
classic Madonna.
Yeah, you had Madonna, who the director worked with Madonna on a video with her, but she did "I'll Remember,"
which it's actually billed as the song from With Honors. It's not something that Madonna.
Yeah, it's called "I'll Remember," and in parentheses it says music from the motion picture With Honors, something like that.
So I think it was written for this movie.
Yeah, I think later on she did put it on one of her albums or whatever, but it did come for this movie and everything. And you know, with the lyrics, it makes a lot of sense. But it was such a huge song back in there.
It was iconic back in the day.
Yeah. You know? And it's a really good song, and it made me think of different parts in the trailer all the time and different parts of the movie. But you know, this is one of those movies that you want to come back to and enjoy as much as you did as a child. I found that I had less enjoyment than I did as a child. Did you find you enjoyed it just as much, less, more?
No, I think I felt I enjoyed it as much because, again, you know, this is one of my favorite movies. I mean, it's just all in all because I just loved it. It's a feel good movie. You know what I mean? I feel like movies in a way have to be, emotions. They have to drive emotions, and that's the only way that a movie can be good. Again, this is my opinion purely, but for a movie to be good, it's got to be able to drive your emotions. And what I mean by that is whether it's a comedy, action, drama, whatever, it's got to drive the emotions, to make you want more. You know what I mean? And especially when the story comes true, like in your head. You know what I mean? Like you have in your head when you first watch a movie how you feel like this movie should end. And if it doesn't end that way, then you're pretty upset about it. But I feel like this movie ended in a way that I had imagined it ended, and I like movies like that.
Yeah, and what we like to do every once in a while is look at Rotten Tomatoes. We don't put a lot of credence in these aggregate sites or we don't put a lot of faith in it because it's so skewed with
them deleting comments.
Yeah, sometimes, man, I hate movie reviewers. Sometimes I just hate them sometimes because they analyze it in such a cold way, and I don't think that's how we're supposed to experience art or pieces of art.
It goes back into what I was just saying, how movies have to drive emotions, and you can't be emotionless when you're watching a movie because that's what makes movies great. You know what I mean? That's what makes you remember those movies and want to experience it more and again and again and again. But I mean, if you look at it a cold way, maybe that is your job, and that's how you pay the bills and everything. But mind you, it's just not a good way to enjoy a movie, I feel.
Yeah, and when we look at with honors on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got 17% from critics, but the audience gives it 73%. Yeah. Which
those are good numbers.
Huge on Rotten Tomatoes, 73%.
I don't take these critics. Most times I laugh at them because it's like how you're getting paid for your opinion. You're not getting paid for facts. You're really getting paid for your opinion. I could state facts all day on these movies. Doesn't make the movie any better or worse.
And I get it. I mean, they have to look at it from a critical standpoint as far as critiquing a movie. But those critics are more for Hollywood. Yeah. It's for other directors. It's for the director of this film. What did I do technically wrong? What did the writer do technically wrong? What were the visuals like? What was the editing like? What made this terrible? And so I feel like that's that's why it's so cool. I feel like those are for more Hollywood, the studios to then say, okay, let's take this information and figure out who we're going to hire and who we're not going to hire. But I feel then the audience score is more representative of how all that aside, how you can enjoy a movie even if it's not if it doesn't have all the technical stuff with it, because the 17% that it got from critics, that's an average of 24 reviews. Yeah. The 73%, that's a average of 21,000 reviews. I'm going to trust that one more. Then I'm going to trust the one with 24 of people who are doing a certain and they even write a certain way to keep their job to sound professional and all that kind of stuff. It's I don't know.
Well,
it's
and that's
just
why
very cold.
We're not critics, I mean, we're podcasters, and there's a difference.
We're conversationalists.
Yes. I mean, this is our opinion. We have never ever said, this is the fact. This is the fact. This is the fact. I mean, no, this is our opinion.
We're completely aware that we like movies that people don't like,
and we hate movies that people love. Or people think that we should make important. But it is what it is. I mean, granted, I'm not a critic by any means, but doesn't mean I have to agree with any of the critics either.
Yeah. Can we talk about real quick Brendan Fraser's appearance on Scrubs and how it was one of the most emotional and best runs on Scrubs? Because I think he did 3 episodes in total. He did one where he was there, and then he came back and did a 2-part because his cancer had come back. And then they played the Winter by, what's his name?
Well, when Zach Braff says, "Who are you talking to?" that just kind of, I was like, oh
Yeah, and right when you see he's got the suit on, and then
it's like,
as
who
he
are you
looks,
talking to?
Brendan Fraser disappears. You're like, oh crap! But yeah, that has that Joshua Radin song "Winter." It's one of the best moments of Scrubs.
It is. It really is.
And one of the most
it goes through my head.
commonly
Like
referenced.
I can literally have that go through my head right now. Like I remember it almost word for word. It was just such an amazing scene, you know.
Yeah, he did a really good job in that, playing his little funny shtick that he was doing and everything, and he played some good drama roles. But if you guys get a chance to watch this, definitely give it a watch. Don't go out of your way to watch it, but it's good for what it is, and you get to see some good acting from Joe Pesci, and we just don't get enough of that anymore with him not acting. So this is one of those roles where you should definitely give it a watch if you want to get a sense of what the 90s were like, because this is all 90s haircuts, 90s verbiage and thinking everything was all about Harvard and schools like that, making movies and stuff. But anyways, if you guys want to get a hold of us, you can find us at all the podcasting places. We're on all social media as at the Post Credit Podcast, except for Twitter. We're at the Post Credits. We have a website, thepostcreditpodcast.com. We're also on YouTube. Reach out, let us know if there's anything you want us to cover. Any movies from the 90s. Let us know what your favorite movie from the 90s are, as we're trying to work our way through our favorites from the 90s. Maybe we'll hit that up. Maybe we'll do an episode on your favorite, if especially if we already have it on the go, and we'll mention you in it. So let us know. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next time.
And throw me a bone.